Are you looking to get on the road to your dream career? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Mentor Select Podcast with your host, Derek Phillips. Always stay up to date on social media at Mentor Select and online at mentorselect.com. Here's your host of the Mentor Select Podcast, Derek Phillips.
Welcome to episode 57 of the Mentor Select Podcast. It is always a pleasure to have you join us each week for high-quality virtual mentorship from our guest mentors. If you have not had a chance to like, subscribe, or share the Mentor Select Podcast, please do so. And you also can go to mentorselect.com/podcast to catch up on any episodes that you may have missed. So tomorrow I'm getting ready to head back home to Gary, Indiana, where it all started for me. We're taking our daughter Legacy home to meet the family. So it's going to be an action-packed trip. My wife and I are excited. And I'm really excited because I'm going to be doing a book signing for my first book, Poverty Powerball, while in Gary. The Gary Public Library and Cultural Center is sponsoring the book signing. So it's going to be a fun event. I have a lot of folks planning on coming out, supporting. It's my goal to make it an unforgettable experience for everyone involved. And it's truly an honor for me to return home and pay tribute to the city and the residents who helped develop me into the man that I am today. There's so many people that took special interest in me and just helped make sure that I was staying on the right track. So I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing some of those people and just giving back as much as I can and showing the residents that it doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you finish, and that your toughest hardships open up the door to your greatest opportunities. So that's my message, and I try to illustrate that in how I live my life. So if you are in the Gary, Chicago area, be sure to stop by the Gary Public Library and Cultural Center tomorrow between 5 and 7 p.m. We're going to have giveaways, we're going to have book reading, signing, just a whole event, whole extravaganza. So be sure to join. If you're not in the area, you can pick up my book at Amazon. It's Poverty Powerball, and I really appreciate your support. So today we have on the pod Dr. Avis Foley, and if you remember back to episode 26, she was first on the Mentor Select Podcast, giving us some valuable just life lessons and guidance. She was so good, had to have her back. And for this series, she actually did a video component to this interview, which you can find on my Derek Phillips YouTube channel. But for this interview, she focused more so on just what life was like growing up in Gary for her, how she overcame that adversity to also become a doctor and an educator, an author, a motivational speaker. Dr. Foley is doing a lot, and she's really passionate about walking in her purpose and serving others and educating the youth. I'm thrilled that she agreed to come back and share more of her inspirational story with us. So let's get to the interview. Dr. Foley, thanks for coming back on the Mentor Select Podcast. It's always an honor to have you.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. So Dr. Foley, you have your doctorates in, what is your doctorates in?
Educational leadership.
Education. All right.
Yes, sir.
You've been an educator for how long now?
This is my 13th year. 13th
Wow.
year in education. So I just feel like I'm never going to get out of education. Like I always want to educate in some kind of way. So I just think that's instilled in me because I know that is what saved me. You know, when I think back to how I grew up and different things like that, it was just like in my mind, I was like, okay, you just have to stay smart. You just got to do your work and that's how you're going to get out, you know? And so, yeah, that's what I did.
Awesome. Well, we certainly want to hear more about how you did that. So Dr. Foley, where'd you grow up at?
Gary, Indiana, Glen Park, 39th and Pierce.
Okay.
And that really shaped me a lot. I just knew, you know, growing up what I didn't want to become. Okay. I knew I didn't know where I was going, but I just knew that I couldn't stay there. Now, I love where I'm from. Don't get me wrong. I love Gary to the heart. But, you know, when you have a desire for something more, you feel like God has put something more in you. You just got to navigate to try to figure out how to get there. So that was always my thing.
Definitely. Now, for the viewers who are not familiar with Gary, kind of paint the scene for us, what it was like growing up in Gary during your childhood.
For me, it was, very poverty stricken. We didn't have much. We didn't have a car. So a lot of the places we walked, everywhere we walked. I stayed in a foster home. My foster parent, who adopted me when I was in the second grade, she's deceased now, but she already had 15 kids of her own. So it was very difficult to I'm not saying like we didn't have anything to eat or things like that, but it was difficult daily survival. And, when you don't have what everyone else has, you begin to think like, is something wrong with me? Why did I have to come into this world under these circumstances, different things like that. So for me, it was more mental about my life. Like, why did my life have to be this way? But now that I'm 37, I totally understand why my life was that way. But like I said, we didn't have much. I have a twin sister as well. She'd wear something on Monday. I'd have it on Tuesday. So it was kind of like, one of those things. But I appreciate it all. And I wouldn't change any of it, So I think that's, why I'm such a strong person and I'm so focused. Like I have to do more while I'm here. So, yeah.
All right. So with Gary, I'm definitely familiar with it. The viewers know I'm from there as well. We're from 46th in Connecticut. So.
Okay.
Same neighborhood.
Right in the neck of the woods, same area, more or less. So
certainly Gary's plague, especially during that time, still now, the plague of gangs, crack cocaine, violence.
Yes.
A lot of distractions, a lot of this situation where you can just be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yes.
How did you navigate all of that?
I think for me at a very young age, even when I didn't realize that's what it was, I had a relationship with God. And I just remember a lot of the times, like I said, we had to walk everywhere. So walking to school, walking home, I would have these conversations about God, about my life and just, what is it? Why am I here? Like, why am I in this situation? Why is everything around me so negative? When am I going to get to positivity? And it was more so like, I feel like back then I didn't know, but he was propelling me, to get me to where I am now. So I just think that, and just knowing that I used to always say to myself, God, this can't be life. Like there's got to be more than just this. And so I just feel like, it all really begins with your mindset. So you have to understand that your environment, doesn't determine your circumstance or your outcome for life. And you can't allow it to. Some people get swallowed up into that, but you have to say to yourself and know that I am destined for greatness. I am destined for more than just my circumstance. So.
All right. Definitely. I did mention there was a time during your childhood where you felt like, why me? Why did my life have to be in this situation? Do you think that was still more your spiritual faith and your relationship with God to help you get through that, to help you see that you knew it had to be more to life?
I do. I think that was the primary motivation behind everything. And then, like I said, now I know that I had to go through all of those things because somebody else is going to go through it. And I have to be the one to share my story or my testimony to help them. So anything that anybody ever goes through in life, I feel like at that moment, you're not going to look at it as, as beneficial. But that was very beneficial because now, as an educator, I see students that are going through the exact same things, that have given up, that don't believe in themselves, like all the issues that I struggled with. And I have to speak life into them about, that where you come from does not determine where you're going. So, yeah.
What's remarkable about your story is when you tell them that, they know that you know from experience, firsthand experience. You're not going off of theory or anything. You experience
Exactly. Exactly.
So I'm a big believer in that. Like everything happens for a reason. And my grandparents always say a blessing in disguise.
Yes. That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah.
I feel the same way as far as growing up in Gary and those circumstances. Just like, okay, I survived that. I could survive.
Right. You can survive anything. Exactly. Yeah.
It prepares you. Certainly. Now, you mentioned earlier about just how education was always important. You saw it as like your key out, way out. Were you always smart, or what gave you that, I guess, inclination and okay, education is going to be my way out?
I just feel like at certain points in our lives, we didn't have many toys and different things like that. but we've always had books. And the different schools that I went to, like my elementary school, I remember at one point in time, they were throwing books away. And so me and my sister were like, we're going to take garbage bags up there and we're going to get books. And we went up to the school, got all these books. And so I just always like to read. I always like to obtain information. And I know this is so random, Derek, but I have to say this. So I remember being in class one day, and you know how the guys, and maybe not during your era, but the guys, they do something like they do report cards. And on the report card, they write down every female's name in the class, and they'll put things like her hair, her smile, her body, just all these different things. And they would grade us, you know, and so they would do it ever so often. And I would always be so petrified, you know. And so I remember this one specific time they were passing a report card around, and it had got to the last guy in the class. They had all these things, and my name was on the list. And so when he filled it out, he was like, do you want to see it? And I knew I didn't want to see it because I didn't think anything positive was going to be on there. So I asked him, could I see it? And I'm looking at all the columns, Derek. I'm getting F's on everything, like everything. And so when it got to it, it said smarts with an S, and they gave me an A. And I was like, if that's the one thing that people will remember about me, I'm gonna write that out. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I did ever since then. Like, you have to be intelligent. You have to educate yourself. And so I just felt like that's what they thought of me. That's what I'm going to do, you know? And of course I had to come into my own and different things like that. But back then I felt like that's all I had was to educate. Like, I know education saved me from a lot. So.
Wow. Yeah, I'm glad you shared that story, because
it's
something that is, I know it hurt at the time.
But yes.
Far, so something that can't be taken away from you.
Right.
And that, like, say, end up saving you.
Exactly.
I guess going into a little more into that in terms of, so as a boy growing up in the inner city in that environment, it's a different experience than a girl. So I guess what kind of, different type of challenges that you experienced as a girl growing up in the inner city? I'm sure a lot of girls are experiencing now.
I just feel like I really struggled with my confidence. You know, I was never satisfied about the way I looked. You know, we couldn't do things, you know, like I said, we didn't have none of the clothes and different things like that. So, and now that I know that stuff doesn't matter, but back then it mattered. You know, if you see everybody around you with the nice clothes, the nice shoes, but you're getting your shoes from the Salvation Army, your shoes aren't designer shoes and different things like that, it does weigh on you. You know, you start to think like, man, we're poor, you know? And so I think back then I may have had somewhat of a poverty-stricken mindset because I felt like I needed those things to be successful, when I know now that I didn't. But it really affected my confidence. I felt like because we didn't have what everyone else had, that's why, you know, I didn't have the boyfriends and different things like that. But I thank God, Eric, that I did not have the boyfriends. Like, I just thank God for so many things now. Like, because now those same guys, if I go back to Gary, they're in my face. And I'm like, get out my grill, you know? So everything comes back full circle, honestly. And I'm thankful, you know, for it. I'm thankful for every guy that has called me ugly. I'm thankful for anybody that has talked about what I had on, you know, different things. Like, we were always clean, you know, things like that. But it's just the clothes and different things. It just wasn't popping. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So I guess if you break it down to that level, it's the same experience for boys as well. I have
the
same issues.
I'm sure.
With confidence. And what's odd about growing up in poverty is there's different levels of poverty within the poverty.
Yes.
Kids anybody growing up in Gary, most likely they fall in that poverty line, but you have some who dress nicer than others. There's some
that's true.
Mom may have a decent job. They may have a car. So it's like
that's true.
Poverty. It was interesting.
It was, yeah. So
the baby dressed nice. They didn't realize that they were poor as well.
Right. Exactly. So
that's
yeah.
Cool. What would you say was another pivotal point in your life, in your childhood, where I guess things could have went? If you'd have made one bad decision, it would have went completely opposite. It would have changed the trajectory of life.
I feel like one major point was when I got to high school. And then, so, you know, in high school, it really became a big deal about what you wore, different things like that. Everybody got on Jordans. You got on, like I said, no name still, even in high school. And I remember talking to one of my classmates and letting them know that, like, man, I just hate that we have to live this life. And he's like, well, you know, you could do something about it. And I'm like, okay. And then he was like, he told me to meet him after school in the alley behind the school. And he wanted me to sell weed. And I couldn't do it. I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I know had I done that, Derek, I would probably be, who knows where I would be. But I just knew that that wasn't the way that I wanted to make money. I want to make money, limitless money. That comes to an end eventually for everybody. So I don't know. I think if I would have gone that way, who knows where I would be. So I'm just glad I had the courage to say no, because it was like a pressure thing, almost like, come on, man, that's why you got on those raggedy shoes, or, your pants are too little, you're flooding, and different things like that. And it was like, in the moment, it was like, yes, this is a way out. But then I was like, no, this is a way. This is not a way out. This is a way that you don't want to go. This is the path you should not be taking. So I just thank God I had the wisdom. And that's what I pray for all the time now. It's just wisdom to make smart decisions. And I'm glad I was able to do so then. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy as well. That's great.
Yeah.
Like I said, it took courage. It takes a lot of courage, and it's that self-discipline, because unfortunately a lot of people in that environment makes that decision where they go for the fast money, that trap.
Right.
They want the nice clothes and shoes and
right.
all of those trappings. But yeah, the courage to say no.
Yeah, just say no. Yeah.
There's something I talk about in my book where it's not, it's still, you definitely have to navigate those pitfalls, because it's not as easy as just saying no, because like with the gang environment, they can be, okay, if you either with us or against us.
Right.
It is certainly some finessing to try to walk that tightrope, but yeah, you certainly have to identify those positive influences, those people that's doing the right thing, and try to also align with those people. So what were some sources of positivity for you growing up?
I could say my teachers. Maybe that's probably why I became an educator. I had certain teachers that really took a genuine interest in me and making sure that I was okay and making sure that I knew how to be successful. I remember one of my favorite teachers, I'm not going to say his name because he's still a teacher, but one day it was like I was really down about home life and different things like that. And he just was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I was like, I just hate my life. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. He was like, you're here. He was like, you know how many people aren't even here? He just really started going off on me to a point of where he threw a dictionary at me. Now, I know today he probably would be in jail somewhere, but when I tell you I appreciated that so much, because he helped me see that, like, I'm responsible for my life, and it starts here. And most students, like even the students that I work with now, they don't realize that, like, it starts now. Like, you're starting the trajectory of your life. So you have to make smart decisions, because if you're a child that makes decisions that aren't smart, you're going to be an adult that does the same thing, and they don't see the connection between the two. So it's just me trying to beat it in their brains. Like, you have to be responsible for you. You got to make smart decisions. You got to think about the long run. Now it's cool, but you got to think about the long run. Like, what do you really want for your life? And so I think he really instilled that in me and kind of changed my way of thinking. So I still, move through life with the doubt and different things like that. But I began to adopt the mindset that I was responsible for my life. And so ever since then, Derek, I just made sure that I did what I envisioned myself doing, and that's what I'm going to keep doing until it's over. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Continue to pay it forward. And like you said,
yeah, that's it. That's all you can do. That's why we're here. And like, most people don't realize that too. Like, that is why you're here. You're here to pay it forward. You're here to help someone else. You're here to serve someone else other than yourself. And then once you start doing things like that, everything else will line up in your life. And most people don't look at it like that as well, but I do. So that's my mission. That's what I plan on doing, and I'm going to continue doing in my life. So yeah.
Awesome. So let's say when you were in high school, did you envision yourself ever having a doctorate degree, like going to that highest level education?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Like, honestly, Derek, like, and I know this sounds really dumb, but this is just a testament to how much we were exposed to. So I really thought that once I graduated high school, I was just going to go and be a manager at McDonald's. And in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna be making all kind of money as a manager. But I wasn't exposed to college. Nobody had gone to college, And even when we found out about the application process, the financial aid process, like, our foster mom, she didn't even know what to do. You know what I'm saying? So by the grace of God, I had a counselor. She saw my GPA, suggested that I apply, and I got in. And from there, Derek, I fell on my face probably every year in college, but I made it out. And once I made it out of undergrad, I was like, okay, now I got it. I'm going to go get my master's. And once I got my master's, I was like, this is not enough for me. Like, so now for me, it's just about excellence. So anything that I do, like, and I'm not saying if you don't, you're not excellent. But for me, like I said, I could get my bachelor's, my master's, or I could get my doctorate. And so that's just how I looked at it. And I did it. Took a while, but I did it.
Lifetime, yeah.
Yeah, I did it.
A race, but you said something very important in terms, like, say, if every year you're undergrad, you fell on your face, but the key, got back up.
Got back up. I got back up because I feel like even though my high school was a great high school, they don't prepare you for college. I didn't know what plagiarism meant. So first time I had my first assignment, plagiarizing like it ain't nothing, Derek. You know what I'm saying? And so I turned my paper in, and my teacher's like, she sent the paper back and she gave me a D-. And I was insulted, even though I was plagiarizing. But I sent her an email and I said, I worked really hard on this paper. The least you could have gave me was a C. And she emailed me back and was like, no, the least I could have done was turned you into the dean who would have expelled you. So I had to take that D, and move on with my life, you know what I'm saying? But I learned about plagiarism that way, because nobody had ever told me about that. So just different things, in life that you don't think about. I often tell my students, like, I had to learn things the hard way, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oprah says it best, but there's no struggle. There's no strength.
Facts.
Love it. Awesome. And also, where'd you go to undergrad?
Purdue University. I went to Troy University for my master's, and then I went to Walden University for my specialist and my doctorate. So, yeah.
The Purdue.
Yeah, good old Purdue. It was a great school. It taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about the real world. Was not ready for the real world until I got to Purdue. And it just showed me how my reality of, my depiction of what I thought the world was so not real. It really, like I say, I fell on my face a couple of times, but I got up. So yeah, first semester I got on academic probation, almost flunked out my first semester. And then I taught myself how to write college essays. I taught myself how to study, because these are things that are not taught. It's just things that I guess one would assume that you already know, but it's a process to everything. So, yeah.
And that's the thing too, in growing up in poverty, inner city schools, it's just so many distractions where it's great teachers there. There's a lot of distractions they're dealing with in terms of it's end games, all that stuff.
Yes.
It's hard to get a quality education.
It is.
Thing about it. So I had a lot of similar experiences. I learned about plagiarism, getting my first F in college.
Yeah.
I got to undergrad. I didn't really know how to write a research paper.
Right.
And it wasn't good.
Right. Exactly.
I guess I just, copy and paste. But you're lucky you got a D+ or D-. I had to retake that class.
Right.
Like I said, I wouldn't change it at all. Definitely. And that's the thing about it. As far as those lessons you learn going through those struggles and falling on your face, how have they really served you in your professional life? Like, what would you say are some of those key lessons that you say, okay, I learned this and growing up in the hood, and this has been a key for me. This has really been a competitive advantage for me, my winning ticket.
I think probably the most important thing is that you have to be disciplined in everything that you say you're going to do. Like, if you say you're going to do something, that means you have to do it until you exhaust all possibilities. So, even my transition from, my educational world to professional, it wasn't a hard adjustment, but I did know certain things. Like I said, Purdue taught me a lot. So just about working hard, being disciplined, learning that nobody owes you anything. So if you show up to work every day and do your job, don't expect anything, because that's what you're supposed to do. Now, I'm not saying it's not good to get recognized, because it is. If you know, do what you're supposed to do, you overextend yourself, that's cool. But nobody owes you anything. Like, they're paying you to do a service. So you have to do that service no matter what. And if they are paying you, you should be doing your absolute very best. You know, I really feel like whatever you do, you should do your absolute best. You should give 150% of yourself to whatever it is you commit to. And I think that's what I learned the most. That was the most powerful thing that I learned. And how everybody's different, but everybody's the same too. You know what I'm saying? I really learned that people are just people. And so you have to learn to navigate around different people, adjust to different people in their ways, and understand that everybody doesn't come from the same place. Everybody has a story to tell. And so your story is no greater than someone else's story. I learned that as well. So, yeah.
Love it. Yeah. Awesome. Valuable lessons. So you accomplished your doctorates in education. What else have you accomplished that you didn't imagine that you would accomplish?
But maybe writing 2 novels. I didn't like. Now, I've always loved to write. Like I said, we didn't have many toys, so at night, you know, my twin sister, she would be like, "Tell me a story," and I would just make up a story off the top of my head, not knowing that, you know, that skill set would be, you know, later implemented into my life. But I've always loved to write creatively. And when I wrote my first book, honestly, I wrote it because I was in an abusive relationship, and when I used to go write for that book, it was like an escape. So in my mind, Derek, I never thought I would get it published. I never thought anyone else would read it. And I really never thought people would be like, that was good, you know? So I think I allowed all those things to hold me back. So I sat on the book for 10 years. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to publish this. And I did. And then right after that, when I saw the success of that, I was like, another book came to me. So I'm just glad that I'm a published author. I can say that, you know, and sometimes I sit and think that the things that I've accomplished, they aren't big. And I think that's because I want so much more for my life, but they are, you know, and I have to learn to pat myself on the back. I feel like I'm very hard on myself. Everyone says that, but I feel like that's how you get better. Like, you have to be hard on yourself, because that's how you get better. And that's how you're going to accomplish what it is you were put here to do. That's how you move closer to your purpose. Like, you can't just, I put out a book, okay, cool, but I'm not going to walk around, I put out a book. No, I'm just going to keep working. If I put out another one, I will. If I put out, so you just have to set a high expectation for your life, because you only get one life. And I wish so many more people would realize that, like, what are you doing with your life? Who are you helping in your life? And so that's my whole thing at this point. I just want to serve. I want to be the answer to somebody's problem.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Worth living for, certainly.
Yeah.
It's all about the legacy you're leaving.
Exactly.
Cool. So what's the name of your novels?
The first one is Blue. Blue stands for Black Love Unites Everything. And then my second novel is called Inevitable. And so both books are about relationships. The first book is more so like, you can see the growth in my writing. Like, I really thought I had did something with Blue, Derek. And I'm not saying it's not a good book, but when I go back, I was like, oh man, I was so young and dumb. You know, you can just tell even by some of the dialogue that I use. But the second book is more polished. It's more, you know, it has a lot more figurative meaning behind it. There's a message I want you to walk away with. The first one does too now, but the second one was more intentional. There were more things that I wanted to bring attention to that are going on in the world that people need to stop and think about. And so, yeah, both are great books. But I've been getting major props for the second book. So, yeah.
But that's great for the reader, where they get to see your growth as an author from the first to the second book. So
Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Yeah. See, I'm noticing a pattern. Like, once you accomplish something, it's just like a domino effect. You just
yeah. That's true.
Awesome. Great. So I know also, you wrote in books, educator. What else is on your resume? What else?
So right now I am really, walking into my purpose of being a transformational speaker. And it's so weird because I never saw myself doing this, but when I do have the opportunities to do it, I feel so inspired. I'm glad that I'm able to inspire people with my message. So that is really what I'm really trying to do, Derek. So in a minute, I promise you, world, you're going to see me up there right next to E.T., Eric Thomas, right next to whoever. Like, I'm going to be Tony Robbins, all of these people. Like, I have to be one of those people because I know that my story, and there's so many things that's when I tell people, like, I give you glimpses and pieces of my story, and you may say, wow, but I've been through so much, Derek. So I just want to share that with the world, inspire the world, let them know that they can overcome anything because I have. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's your duty to share it with the world.
That's it.
Went through it for a reason. And for you to have the strength to overcome it, that means you have the strength to help others overcome it.
Exactly. Yep.
Fantastic. We're certainly looking forward to seeing you on the big screen.
Oh, yeah. You will see me. Yep.
You have everything it takes. So
I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right, Dr. Foley, really appreciate it. What do you want to leave the viewers with as far as your parting message?
I mean, I guess really just what I said earlier, you are responsible for your life. So make it a great life. Do what it is that you have to do to make sure that you walk into your purpose, you fulfill your purpose, because at the end of the day, it is never about you. It's always about, being a servant leader and making sure that others have a well-lit path to walk down.
Awesome. And being a servant leader you are, how can viewers get in contact with you?
Oh, yes. You can email me at dravisfoley@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram at I am Dr. Foley. If you want to learn more about my writing, you can follow me on Instagram at I am Bella Black. And I'm also on Facebook as Avis Foley. I also have a YouTube channel, Dr. Avis Foley. So yes, please reach out. I'm here to help. If you're in Gary and you're watching this, I'm here. You can contact me. I'm willing to be a mentor. If you feel down, allow me to help lift you up.
That was another remarkable interview with Dr. Avis Foley. It's just always a joy speaking with her and just hearing how candid she is about her humble beginnings and all of the hardships that she's had to overcome in her life. But she's just a shining example that if she can do it, you can do it. And I'm always inspired listening to Dr. Foley share just where she came from and where she is now. That's a really just empowering story. And that's what she's all about. That's her purpose in life, is empowering others, educating. So we really appreciate Dr. Foley coming back by and sharing more with the Mentor Select listeners. Be sure to reach out to Dr. Foley and let her know what resonated with you about this interview, and just pick up her books. I'll put them in the show notes. She has some books out that I'm sure help a lot of people. So just let's support Dr. Foley like she's supporting us. So I'll be back next week with another guest mentor. Y'all take care.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Mentor Select podcast, helping you identify and follow your passions. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit mentorselect.com and Mentor Select on social media. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review. We'll catch you next time.